Hi, I'm Tom. This is Lucy, and this is Kitty Help Desk. So today I want to talk a little bit about the process of choosing a cat. A lot of people choose their cats just by the way that they look, and that's fine. And in a lot of cases, that works out just fine. But if you're interested in trying to make sure that you end up with a cat who is more compatible with you, then I have some guidelines that you could use to do that. For everyone who's looking at cats and considering adoption, I'm just going to say the best thing to do is to adopt your cat, not to buy it from a breeder. Now, there are some reputable breeders. I don't want to cast shade on, all breeders in the whole world, but the fact is that we have a lot of cats in the world, and those cats all need homes. And the cats that are in shelters and rescues really deserve homes as much as any. And so the fact is we really don't need more cats. And so breeding them in a way exacerbates the problem. Now, I know there are some people who really want a particular kind of cat, whether they have an emotional attachment to that type of cat or they, really feel that cat is a breed that they identify with. I get that. But in a lot of cases, you can find all kinds of cats in rescues. The second biggest thing is really to try and determine the type of cat that suits your lifestyle. Now, if you're mostly a stay-at-home person, maybe you even work from home these days, and you really aren't out of the house more than a couple hours a day, then maybe you like the thought of having a cat that just sits on your lap and purrs and enjoys being in your company all day long. That's a very particular personality type. To know that going in, that you'd prefer a very active cat or a very sort of sedate cat is very important to sort of home in on what really suits your lifestyle. Because if you're not going to be home for 10 or 12 hours a day and you have a very active cat, and if they're at home alone, you've got the makings for some behavior problems. Even though they sleep a big chunk of the day, if they're very active and very inquisitive, they're probably going to get bored. And when cats get bored, sometimes bad things happen. It's just the way that it is. When humans get bored, sometimes bad things happen too. So it's nothing about cats. But with some cats, older cats, for example, senior cats, if you're going to be gone a big chunk of the day, a senior cat might be a great solution because they really are going to sleep as much as 20 hours a day, and they may not want as much interaction as a small, very vivacious cat. So, speaking of like your lifestyle in your home, the type of home you live in can have a lot to do with it. If you live in a very small apartment, like a studio apartment, you really don't want a cat that's going to need space to run. So to get a type of cat that's a little quieter, a little less rambunctious might be better for you. If you live in a big sprawling ranch house, the world is your oyster. Although, if you have a lot of stairs in your house, you may have a problem with a senior cat because senior cats often develop arthritis and can't maneuver stairs as well. So there's a lot to consider there, and the type of home where you live now is of primary importance to whether the cat will work in that home. Now, I spoke briefly about personality. So there's a really great resource that I'll post a link to down below from the ASPCA called Felinality. It's the personality of cats. And they've divided cats up into, I believe, 8 or 9 different personality types. And they've done this to encourage shelters to sort of color code and label cats in their care according to their personality type. Because in a lot of cases, when you visit the shelter and you meet a cat for the first time, that cat really may not behave the way they will when they're back in your home. There's all these different personality types with cats. And, you could look at the felinality types and kind of home in on one of them and talk to people at the rescue or the shelter about, this is kind of what I'm looking for, or when you're looking on Pet Finder, read the descriptions. I mean, read all of the descriptions where fosters have contributed their thoughts and feelings about, what the cats are like. And then you can make the best decision for the cat that you think would be most compatible with you. Now, with kittens, it's very difficult because you can't always know what a kitten's going to be like when they, mature. You can get some sense of personality, but kittens are often really gonzo. And they are just, going at it, 100 miles an hour, everything they do. And then they crash. And that's the kitten personality. And you can see there are some shy kittens that sort of stand back from the fray. There are some that dive right in. And so you can get some clues about what they might be like. But I'll just warn you, that may not be how they turn out to be when they're out of this group hierarchy that is, the parent and the siblings. So once, if you adopt one cat, you take that cat home and that cat is now the only cat, they may blossom into a completely different personality type as they mature. So it's just something to consider when you're, thinking of possibly adopting a kitten. Now, the great thing about kittens is that you can shape their personality to a certain degree. There's a relatively narrow window for socialization, but assuming that they've been well socialized with a variety of people, you can continue that trend by introducing them to more people, making sure they experience as many different circumstances and loud noises and all the things that go on in a household as early as possible. One way that's really, I think, the best way to go about adopting a cat is to foster the cat first. Most shelters and rescues need fosters, especially this time of year. I'm shooting this in the springtime. This is what we generally refer to as kitten season. And that means that lots and lots of new kittens are being born and being brought into shelters and rescues. But fostering even an adult cat is a great way to sort of try them on for a while. That's a kind of no risk, no guilt way of trying them out, because if you don't really click with that cat and don't get along, or maybe it's just not the cat for you, there's a time limit as to how long you'll have them. And once they get adopted by someone else, then you could try another one. Now, you do want to be real careful about pity adoptions, because they sometimes go well and sometimes not so well. A pity adoption may go well if you're a very experienced cat caregiver, if you're someone who understands a lot about cat behavior and can help that cat come out of their shell. But if you are really sort of a new adopter and you go to the shelter and you just feel sorry for a particular cat who's cowering and frightened, that's probably not the best cat for you to adopt, because that cat's going to require a lot of work. In general, I recommend people avoid pity adoptions unless they really have the skill set needed by those cats. Now, when you go to a shelter or a rescue, a lot of times they'll have you fill out a form with a lot of information about yourself. And they're going to ask you questions about whether or not you intend to let the cat go outside and things like that. I take that very seriously. And at the same time, I would ask plenty of questions about the history of the cat. I mean, you want to see their medical history if there is one. You want to know where they came from. Has there been a foster? If there's been a foster, that's someone you probably ought to talk to about their experience with the cat and see if the cat sort of matches your expectations of what you see before you, because that can vary somewhat. So you really want to spend more than just a few minutes with each cat. You want to take your time, maybe go back several times. Don't make any snap decisions. You really want to take your time to get to know the cat a little bit and let the cat get to know you long enough so that they can come out of their shell a little bit. Maybe you can offer them some treats. Maybe the shelter staff has approved treats that they'll let you offer the cat, in one of the adoption rooms, so that they can learn to trust you a little bit, and maybe you can see a little bit more about who they really are. At the end of the day, the best advice I can give you is to just be open to all types of cats going into it. allow the cats to choose you, because oftentimes they will choose the human that they most like. And, trust your gut. Trust how you feel about that particular cat, and really take what you see in them beyond just their cosmetics. Look deeper than their coat color. Look at how this cat can become a lifelong friend. And I think you'll be really happy with what happens, as a result. So, thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe if you like what I do here. And I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.